And what am I saying when I do this? What am I saying? What I'm saying, or what Rails is interpreting this as, is for a user, when I say has many to-dos, Rails knows that, okay, so I'm associated as a user to the to-dos table because I'm specifying it. That means there is a user, lowercase user underscore ID column in this to-dos table. Okay, and that is how I'm going to find users and relate to them to to-dos. Similarly, in to-dos, when I say belongs to user, it's saying, okay, so there is a user model, caps U, user model, and that has a users table, and there's going to be a primary key in that table that I'm going to have foreign key in my to-dos table, and that value is going to be equivalent, and that's how I'm going to associate the two. Okay, so let's go ahead and reload. Okay, now this allows me to build associations and link them. So for user now, I have virtual attributes. That means I have access to getters and setters for to-dos through user. Okay, with to-dos, I have virtual attributes, getters and setters for users. Okay, for user. So let's take a look over here. Control L. Let's grab the first user. So user equals user.first. Okay, so now my user is the first user, my only user that I have, Masroor. Okay, and let's grab the first to do. So to do equals to do.first. Okay, because I have the association, I can do something like this: user.todos. And it's an empty collection because I don't have any to-dos associated with the user. I can also do this, to-do.user. Nil, because my to-do, which is this one, doesn't have any user. But because I have this association, I can simply do this, to-do.user equals user. Because this is my virtual attribute right here. This is not an actual attribute. My virtual attribute, through this, I can grab this user that I have, okay, name, Masroor, email, masroor@example.com, and assign it as the user ID over here. If I do that, this user ID of nil for this to do, right here, user ID of nil will change to the user ID of 1, okay? So let's try it out. There you go, to-do.user, user ID 1. There you go. Now if I do to-do.save, it'll actually hit the database. Check it out, update to-dos, set user ID to 1, okay? It generated this SQL for me. So now if I type in to-do, check it out, user ID of 1, okay? Now if I do user.todos, it returned empty because my user is the prior in-memory user object. I have to reassign user equals user.first. Okay, now if I do user.todos, check it out. It actually lists the to-do that I have. Okay, now let's look at another way of doing this. Okay, so I have to-dos. Let's say to-do. Let's grab a new one. To-do equals to-do.last. Okay, so it's my last to-do that I have. User ID is nil. And my user I still know is my first user. Okay, so another way of doing this, last time I did to-do.user and I assigned user, right? I can also do this, user.todos. If I type in, I have this, right? If I type in user.todos and then shovel in the to-do that I have, which is to-do.last, this is another way I can assign a to-do to a user. What this will do is the same thing. It will fill in user ID to my to-do. So let's try that. Check it out. Begin transaction, update to-dos, set user ID to 1, where the to-do ID is 10. And when you do this, it actually impacts the database right away. Commit transaction, begin transaction. I don't have to do to-dos.save or anything like that. So now if I type in user.todos, Check it out. I have to-do ID 1 and I have to-do ID 10. And then I have to-do.user. Check it out, my user. I can also take this a step further and chain even more. I can say to-do.user.to-dos. And then it'll give me both the to-dos that the user has who created this original to-do. Okay, so that's a good amount that we've covered in active record associations. And I hope you understood what's going on and how the associations are built. If you haven't, I would recommend reviewing this video and see how the one-to-many association is built between the two with the has many and belongs to, and take a look at the associations again. Okay, this, if you read this now, it might make more sense. All right, the belongs to and has many. And the other type of association that's commonly used is the many-to-many, and we'll cover that later. But right now, what's important to know is that we understand what relational database is, what virtual attributes are, okay? Which is, you know, when I'm chaining one item to another, it's basically giving me getters and setters for those. And how to make the ORM work for us, meaning active record, and how to make it work for us, all right? So that's all I'm going to cover in this video. In the next video, we're going to go back to our My Recipes app and start building the models for recipes, okay? And we're going to look at recipes and users. We're going to look at the entity relationship diagram, and you looked at it briefly. Okay, let me see if I can pull up one. Entity relationship diagram is how one table associates with another table for your application. So an entity relationship diagram for the entire application will have multiple tables and how they are related to each other. Right now, ours is going to be something like users and recipes, and we're going to call users something else, okay? So we're going to work on this next. Take a look at this, all right? Take a look at what we did here and make sure that you are comfortable with this, because this is going to be very important to know going forward. All right, I'll see you in the next video.